Hello everyone, we're going to be talking about rational equations today. So to complement our learning, we are going to do a Khan Academy exercise called Rational Equations Advanced. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we always have to do with any of these rational equations, that means we have an expression in the top divided by an expression in the bottom. So what we need to do is we need to check to see if there are any exclusions to our domain. Okay, how does that happen? Well, an exclusion to the domain can happen when there's something that causes the expression to be divided by 0 because that is undefined. So we need to check here to see what will make this denominator go to 0 so that it becomes some expression divided by 0 undefined. To do that, the first thing we need probably to do is factor the bottom. So we factor the bottom, we see that there's a 3 that goes into 27, a 3 that goes into 3k. So we're going to factor out the 3. Actually, I'm going to factor out a negative 3 just because I like it when the k is positive, so I'm going to factor out the negative 3, and you're going to see how that helps us in just a second. Okay, so I factored out the negative 3. What happens is negative 3 times something gives me positive 27. It's going to be negative 9. Negative 3 times something gives me negative 3k. That is going to be positive k. Now I'm going to rearrange it so it's looking like it normally does. Now, so we have negative 3 times k minus 9. And now we were going to set that equal to 0 to see what is excluded from our domain. So it's fairly simple. We just need to look here. There's obviously nothing that will make this negative 3 go to 0, so we just need to look at inside the parentheses and what will make that equal to 0. So k minus 9 equals 0. Add 9 to both sides, and you get k equals 9. So if we get an answer, we have to check to see if it's 9. If it's 9, then there's no solution. Okay, so our domain is going to be all real numbers except for 9. Why 9? Well, if we put in 9 into the denominator, we would do 27 minus 3 times 9, which is 27. So that'd be 27 minus 27. That would give us 0. And if you divide by 0, you get an answer that is undefined. So I'm just erasing everything here so I have a little bit more space to work with, because now we need to move on to the real part of solving the rational expression. Okay, this is just a check to make sure we don't get that for an answer. Now, what I'm going to do is I like factoring it. I think it makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to factor the top. I get k. I can factor out a k, and I get k minus 9 in the top. In the bottom, I'm going to factor the bottom. Okay, and we already did that. I factored out a negative 3, and we got k minus 9 in the bottom equals 3. Now, most of the time when you have rational expressions, you're going to be multiplying both sides by the least common multiple so you can get rid of the fraction. But in this case, we can do some canceling first. That's why you always want to factor, if you can, first. Sometimes you can't factor the top, and that's fine. You just multiply by the least common multiple, or usually the expression in the denominator, and that will cancel out the denominator, and you go from there. But in this case, we can cancel out the k minus 9 and the k minus 9. So that leaves us k over negative 3 equals 3. So that is a much more simple problem for us. Now we're still going to do the same thing. We're going to multiply both sides by the least common multiple so we can get rid of that fraction. So I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 3. I distribute this to both terms on both sides of the equal sign. So we have 3 times negative 3, that's negative 9. And now I'm going to show it over here, k times negative 3 over negative 3. What happens is the negative 3 cancels, and you're left with just k. That was the whole point in multiplying by negative 3, is so we could get rid of it, and you're just left with k. There's nothing left to simplify, so negative 9 is our answer. We're going to check it with our domain. Our domain says it can be all real numbers except 9, so I think we're good to go. We're going to plug in negative 9 here. And we got it right.